Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make my favorite pumpkin cookies. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and as somebody who enjoys the more complicated side of baking, I have dedicated myself to sharing the best, most simplified versions of recipes that may have intimidated you in the past. I promise you, you've got this, so let's jump into today's recipe. Now, for these pumpkin cookies, we are going to be starting with 1 cup of melted butter. We're using unsalted butter today, and you want to make sure that you let that cool so it's no longer hot to the touch before you go any further. Once it's had a little bit of time to cool, we can add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar and 1½ cups of firmly packed light brown sugar. And stir these together really well until they're completely combined. Because we're using melted butter today, there is no need for a stand mixer. Everything can be mixed together by hand. Now I want you to go ahead and measure out 2/3 cup of pumpkin puree. Before you add this to your cookie dough, we are going to blot it. To do this, just take a paper towel and you're going to press it firmly into the pumpkin. What we're doing is we're trying to remove as much moisture as we can from this pumpkin. You'll want to repeat this several times with several clean paper towels until you feel like you're not really getting any more liquid. Pumpkin cookies are notorious for being cakey, which I absolutely hate. A cookie should not be cakey. This is due to the fact that pumpkin is mostly water, and all of that water contributes to a fluffy, cakey cookie, unfortunately. By blotting the pumpkin and reducing that excess moisture, we ensure a nice, chewy cookie. Once you've blotted all the liquid you can, add your pumpkin to your butter and sugar mixture. We'll also be adding 1 egg yolk, and we're leaving out that egg white for the same reason that we blotted our pumpkin. Add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, and stir really well to get everything nicely combined. Now grab a separate bowl and we are going to combine 3 cups of all-purpose flour, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. And of course, for today's recipe, I'm using my homemade pumpkin pie spice. Make sure to whisk these together really well. Now gradually add your flour mixture into your pumpkin cookie dough. I do this in about 3 or 4 parts just to make it easier to absorb that flour into the batter. Now because this is a soft cookie dough, it is going to need to chill in the fridge for at least 1 hour before you can bake it. Make sure to cover that tightly with plastic wrap so it doesn't dry out. When your dough is finished chilling, go ahead and preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't take your dough out of the fridge until your oven is ready to go because you don't want it sitting around and getting too soft. Once your oven's preheated, we can start scooping these cookies. Scoop the dough into level 1½ tablespoon-sized balls and space them at least 2 inches apart on your baking sheet. I always line my baking sheets with parchment paper for easy cleanup, but if you don't have parchment paper, just bake the cookies directly on an ungreased cookie sheet. For really nice uniform cookies, you can actually roll the dough into a smooth ball between your palms before baking it. We'll roll 1 more. Bake these on 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 13 to 15 minutes. They might look a little bit puffy when they first come out of the oven, but as they cool, they'll settle and deflate and they should be nice and flat. Once your cookies have cooled completely, you can make a really simple glaze for them by mixing together 1½ cups of powdered sugar, a tablespoon of light corn syrup, a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and you'll also need about 1½ to 2 tablespoons of milk. I'm just going to start with 1½ tablespoons. Whisk these together until they're nice and smooth. This is still pretty stiff, so I'm going to add in the rest of my milk. To test that your glaze is at the right consistency, just lift your whisk out of it, and if the ribbon that falls back down holds its shape for a second before dissolving, you are good to go. You could just drizzle the glaze over your cookies once the cookies have cooled, but I prefer to dip mine. I just like to grip the base firmly and then dip the surface into the frosting, and it gives the cookies a nice, shiny, pretty coating of frosting. Zach loves these cookies, so I know he can't wait to get his hands on them. Now in a perfect world, you would wait about 20 to 30 minutes for that glaze to harden completely, but I don't have that kind of patience, so I'm going to go ahead and dig in right now. Thank you guys so much for watching my pumpkin cookie recipe, and if you try this one out, please let me know what you think. I'll see you next time. Not bad for a pumpkin recipe.